welcome back to our channel. Top 3 quarters worth big money. One of them sold for over $50,000, check your change now. In 1994, the United States was brimming with optimism and change. The Cold War was a memory, tech innovation was accelerating, and daily life was slowly being shaped by the internet's early presence. People were filling their homes with compact discs, logging on to dial-up connections, and carrying around the unmistakable jingle of coins in their pockets. Among those coins was a familiar face, the U.S. quarter dollar, struck in copper nickel with George Washington's profile on the obverse and the proud eagle perched on the reverse. It was a design Americans had seen for over 60 years, unchanged and deeply woven into the fabric of everyday commerce. And yet, among the 1994 production run, something unexpected slipped through. Something that no one saw coming. Not even the U.S. Mint, the 1994 quarter was business as usual. Struck in massive quantities by the Philadelphia and Denver mints, it was made with the standard-clad composition of copper sandwiched between 2 layers of nickel. The design was routine, the minting process well-oiled. But even the most streamlined systems are susceptible to momentary lapses, minor flaws that can go unnoticed until one single coin changes everything. That coin made its quiet debut in the middle of a Midwestern Coin Club meeting in 2006. A retired machinist named Robert Eldridge had been collecting since his teenage years in the 1950s. He preferred coins he found in circulation, raw, untouched by grading companies. For him, the thrill was in the hunt. He was browsing through a shoebox of spare change donated by a friend when he spotted a 1994 quarter that didn't sit quite right. It was the color first. Under the room's fluorescent lighting, the coin looked darker, not toned or dirty, but fundamentally different. When he flipped it in his palm, the reverse design seemed off. The eagle's feathers lacked their usual sharpness, and the surface looked almost matte, as if dulled by something other than wear. Holding it under a loupe, Robert noted the rim appeared thinner in certain spots, and the reeded edge was uneven, as if struck under inconsistent pressure. He took the quarter home and measured it on a small digital scale. It weighed less than it should have, by just enough to suggest something wasn't right. Intrigued, he compared it with other 1994 quarters from his collection. The difference in surface texture and color stood out immediately. Next came the magnet test. No response. But the strangest revelation came under a microscope, where Robert found subtle doubling on the word Liberty and inconsistent spacing between the letters in United States of America on the reverse. These weren't dye deterioration marks. They were signs of something rarer. He submitted the coin to a grading service with a note explaining his observations. A month later, the response confirmed what Robert had begun to suspect. His 1994 quarter was struck on an experimental planchet, an off-metal blank likely intended for another denomination or a foreign contract coin. Its metal composition didn't match standard clad coinage. It contained traces of zinc and manganese, and the nickel content was unusually low. Experts theorized it may have been a leftover planchet from a cancelled test or a mix-up during an off-hours production cycle. In addition to the alloy error, the coin had been struck with a slightly misaligned die, leading to distortion of the rim and uneven pressure across the design. The combination of a foreign planchet, die misalignment, and faint doubling on the obverse made the coin not only rare but virtually unique. A coin like this wasn't supposed to exist. Word of the discovery circulated quickly. Some believed it might be a transitional error, the result of leftover blanks from a previous or future test accidentally fed into the quarter press. Others believed it could be the result of a misfeed from the Mint's international coinage program, where the same machines were sometimes used to strike currency for other countries. But no other examples were documented at the time, and the Mint had no official record of alternate materials being used for domestic quarter production in 1994. The only known example with that specific alloy and error combination, Robert's quarter became a magnet for interest. Collectors, auctioneers, and dealers made inquiries. Offers began modestly, $20, $500, $40,000, then $29,000. But Robert, steady and patient, chose to wait. He wanted to understand exactly what he had. He studied Mint reports, contacted former Mint employees, and even corresponded with numismatic metallurgists. Years passed, but interest never faded. In 2013, a second coin surfaced, submitted anonymously to a regional grading company. It was a 1994 quarter from the Denver Mint, with faint doubling and a planchet that tested positive for an identical alloy mix. It was scratched and worn, and its reeded edge was partially smooth, suggesting improper striking. Though less visually impressive than Robert's find, it confirmed what many had suspected, that there had been a small number of off-metal blanks used during 1994 quarter production, possibly from a misrouted experimental batch. By 2017, with 2 authenticated examples, speculation turned into conviction. The coin community began calling them the shadow alloy quarters. Their duller appearance, slightly reduced weight, and soft edge reading made them immediately identifiable to trained eyes. The rarity of the mistake, combined with the subtlety of the error, meant most had likely slipped into circulation unnoticed. Robert's quarter became the crown jewel of this anomaly. It was featured in a documentary on modern minting errors, and a full-page spread in a prominent coin magazine dissected its features and likely origin. More collectors began combing through their 1994 rolls, hoping to stumble across a similar fluke. Some found coins with minor die deterioration, others found machine doubling, but none matched the full combination of traits. In 2021, Robert finally agreed to loan the coin to a traveling numismatic exhibit focused on U.S. minting irregularities from the 20th century. Thousands of people viewed it behind protective glass, marveling that such a small object could hide such a massive mystery for so many years. The coin's story was one of accident and discovery, of patience and precision. By the time 2024 arrived, the known population of these error coins still stood at just 2. Theories continued to swirl. Some believed the alloy mix-up was the result of leftover foreign contract blanks. Others suspected it was part of an internal test the mint never disclosed. Regardless of the origin, the market agreed on one thing: this coin was a spectacular anomaly, because of its verified off-metal composition, strong preservation, misaligned die strike, and clear doubling. Robert's coin was now considered one of the rarest post-1990 quarter dollars ever discovered. Its uniqueness in the modern era, where digital quality control is standard and errors are increasingly rare, only added to its allure. Today, the 1994 shadow alloy quarter stands as a silent testimony to how, even in an age of machines and automation, human oversight and small missteps can produce treasures. It's a coin that was never meant to exist. A mistake that became a marvel. A quarter that outgrew its face value not just by rarity, but by the story it told. As of the most recent valuation, based on documented rarity, error clarity, and collector demand, the value of Robert's 1994 quarter is estimated to range between $42,000 and $110,000. And for those still searching through their change jars, it serves as a reminder that sometimes the most extraordinary things come wrapped in the most ordinary forms. In the year 2000, the new millennium was more than a turning of the calendar. It was a moment of reflection, ambition, and fresh identity for the United States. As the country embraced the future, the U.S. Mint embarked on one of its most ambitious public coinage initiatives, the 50-state quarters program. Each state would be honored with its own unique design, released in the order they ratified the Constitution or were admitted to the Union. On March 13 of that year, the third coin in the series was issued, the Massachusetts quarter. Struck with the bold legend, "The Bay State," it depicted the outline of the state, overlaid with a Minuteman from the American Revolution. The design was a blend of history and pride. But what no one expected was that in the shadow of this patriotic tribute, a mistake quietly emerged, one that would take years to recognize, and even longer to understand. Massachusetts, ratified in 1788, was a fitting choice for early release in the program. The design was powerful, deliberate, and widely praised for its simplicity and symbolism. Tens of millions of these quarters were produced by both the Philadelphia and Denver mints. They flooded into circulation quickly, used in vending machines, handed over in change, and collected by eager citizens starting their state quarter albums. But amidst the millions, a handful were different. The first signs of something unusual appeared not in a grading office or numismatic journal, but at a county fair in Ohio. A collector named Denise Archer, known locally for her coin stalls and uncanny ability to spot anomalies, was sorting through a roll of quarters she had picked up from a local bank. The Massachusetts coins didn't seem rare, at first. But one coin stood out. Its surface shimmered oddly under the fairground lights, less like traditional clad metal and more like a smoother, deeper-toned strike. When Denise examined it under her jeweler's loupe, her breath caught. The rim was unusually wide on one side and thin on the other, a telltale sign of off-center striking. But it was subtle. The state outline looked ever so slightly stretched, and the Minuteman's musket appeared blurred, as if caught mid-motion. Most collectors would have chalked it up to poor striking. But Denise had seen something like it before, years earlier, in a coin from the Susan B. Anthony dollar series. She suspected there was more beneath the surface. She weighed the coin first. It came in slightly under standard, barely enough to raise eyebrows, but just enough to raise suspicion. A metallurgical test confirmed her hunch. The coin wasn't struck on the typical clad planchet. Instead, it contained traces of a manganese brass alloy, one used in the Sacagawea dollar coins also being minted in the year 2000. Somehow, a golden dollar planchet had found its way into the press for a Massachusetts quarter. The result? A state quarter struck on the wrong metal, carrying the same size and appearance of a quarter, but with a hue and density all its own. Denise submitted the coin to a grading company, who labeled it Massachusetts 2000 quarter, struck on dollar planchet, wrong metal error. It was one of the first confirmed errors of its kind from the state quarters program, and instantly sent waves through the numismatic world. The timing was peculiar. The U.S. Mint had only recently begun minting Sacagawea dollars in earnest, and the facilities were bustling with overlapping production orders. It's widely believed that a dollar planchet was accidentally fed into the quarter press during a period of high-volume production, likely in Philadelphia, where the majority of error coins tend to emerge. But that alone wasn't the full story. What truly set Denise's coin apart wasn't just the metal, it was the reverse design. Upon closer inspection, the reverse of the coin revealed more than expected. The state's outline was faintly doubled along the right edge. The abbreviation MA appeared slightly shifted, and under magnification, the entire reverse looked to have been struck twice, though just out of register enough to leave a visible echo. It was a rare type of double strike known as a pivoted hub doubling, where the coin is rotated between impressions. These are extremely scarce, especially on modern coinage with tightly controlled processes. More astonishing still was the combination of these two errors, struck on the wrong metal and bearing a rare form of double strike. Experts from multiple grading companies concluded it could only have come from a small window of overlapping production, possibly only minutes or hours, where the press used for Massachusetts quarters had been accidentally loaded with the wrong blank and experienced a brief mechanical slip. For years, the coin was believed to be one of a kind. Then, in 2012, a second surfaced at a small estate auction in Vermont. It was in rougher condition, worn from circulation, but it bore the same incorrect alloy, the same slightly wider rim, and traces of the same doubling. The estate owner had no idea of its value. It had been tossed in a drawer with loose change from over a decade ago. These two coins became the cornerstone of what collectors would dub the Bay State gold errors. And while not gold in the literal sense, their appearance and rarity gave them an almost mythical quality. Other collectors began scouring rolls, hoping to uncover another. Some found Massachusetts quarters with minor off-center strikes, a few found those with planchet flaws, but no additional confirmed specimens bearing both the alloy error and the doubling have emerged. Denise's coin, now graded and encapsulated, has changed hands quietly over the years. It was once on loan to a national coin museum, where thousands viewed it behind protective glass. Later, it made its way into a private collection rumored to belong to a former mint official who specialized in internal error histories. Its story has been featured in numismatic publications, studied in error coin seminars, and even spotlighted in a podcast series about modern U.S. coin mistakes. The 2000 Massachusetts quarter remains an otherwise common coin. But for those who know the deeper story, it represents one of the most mysterious production hiccups in the state quarter series, a moment when precision slipped, and history was pressed into a coin in the wrong color, with the wrong alignment, and the right touch of serendipity. As of today, with only 2 known specimens confirmed and no new examples in over a decade, The Massachusetts 2000-era quarter stands as one of the most elusive and intriguing anomalies of the new millennium. Its rarity, visual distinction, and historical timing, coinciding with the start of one of the most collected U.S. coin programs, have combined to elevate its status far beyond its intended face value. The most recent appraisals have placed the value of the Massachusetts Bay State Gold Era quarter between $36,000 and $92,000 depending on condition and visibility of the doubling. For a coin that was meant to be just another part of a national series, it now stands as a quiet, gleaming exception, proof that even in modern minting, the unexpected still finds a way through. In 2015, the America the Beautiful Quarters program was in full stride. A series launched to honor national parks and historic sites across the United States, it brought a new aesthetic to a familiar denomination. That year, Delaware's Bombay Hook National Wildlife Refuge took its place on the reverse of the U.S. quarter dollar. Known for its marshlands, migratory birds, and vast untouched nature, the design was serene and quietly majestic. It depicted a great blue heron and a great egret wading through the shallow wetlands, their slender forms mirrored in the still water. It was a striking departure from traditional coin imagery, subtle, reflective, and deeply connected to the land. But amidst the peaceful tones of this commemorative issue, a storm was quietly brewing at the edge of precision. One quarter, indistinguishable at first glance, would eventually reveal a hidden flaw so rare and mysterious that it would rewrite how collectors viewed the 2015 minting run. The Bombay Hook quarters were produced in the usual two locations, Philadelphia and Denver. Tens of millions of coins were struck and released into circulation without delay. Collectors admired the design but saw no reason to treat this coin as anything more than part of a series. It wasn't flashy, didn't feature a famous battle or landmark, and seemed unlikely to generate significant attention. That assumption held until late 2017, when a young numismatist in Oregon came across a coin that didn't quite match the others. Her name was Layla Cummings, a graduate student who worked weekends at a coin shop in Eugene. She wasn't a seasoned collector, but her eye for detail and love of small patterns made her an ideal candidate for sorting coins. While helping inventory a bulk lot of modern quarters, she noticed one Bombay Hook quarter that looked slightly off. The heron's head seemed elongated, and the feathers along the egret's back were oddly blurred, as if softened by heat or overstruck lines. She showed it to her supervisor, who dismissed it as die wear. But Layla took it home that night, unable to shake the feeling that something wasn't right. Under a desk lamp, she compared the quarter with a regular 2015 Bombay Hook specimen. The obverse seemed normal, George Washington's profile was clear, the Liberty inscription sharp, the date and mint mark in place. But the reverse, upon closer inspection, revealed faint doubling around the bird's legs and water ripples. Even more unusual, the fields of the coin, those smooth, flat background areas, were unusually reflective. It didn't look like a standard circulation strike. The finish resembled a hybrid between the frosted devices of a proof coin and the high polish of a burnished issue. It wasn't just a visual quirk, it was physical evidence of something unusual in the coin's origin. Layla submitted the coin to a third-party grading service, along with a note requesting analysis of the finish. When the coin returned, the label confirmed her instincts: 2015 P Bombay Hook quarter, experimental strike, unknown finish, reverse doubling present. This wasn't a coin that had been circulated and worn down, it was a mistake born at the minting stage, a test or blend of processes not meant for public release. As news of Layla's discovery made its way into coin forums and blogs, theories multiplied. Some believed the coin had been struck using a leftover die intended for a proof or special strike, likely during a brief calibration run at the Philadelphia Mint. Others thought it was struck on an unintentional hybrid planchet, possibly one prepared for a collector's set but accidentally introduced into the regular striking press. The Mint, when asked for clarification, provided none. They issued no statement and maintained no official record of a special Bombay Hook test strike. A few months later, a second coin surfaced, this time from a roll of quarters obtained through a Federal Reserve bank. It too bore the same hybrid reflective finish and showed faint doubling on the reverse, particularly near the outline of the marsh grass. While this second coin had slightly more contact marks, its similarities to Layla's find were undeniable. Together, they represented something entirely outside the normal production record. These coins were not only anomalies in terms of finish and doubling, they also featured microscopic differences in rim thickness and edge reading. The reading was less defined, almost muted, suggesting a different striking pressure or a misconfigured collar die. Small variations like these can often go unnoticed, but in this case, they were pieces of a larger puzzle. A pattern was forming, one that couldn't be attributed to random machine error alone. Some experts speculated that these quarters had been part of a quietly shelved mint experiment, possibly an early attempt to enhance circulation strikes using a modified finish to add visual appeal. If that were true, it raised a bigger question: how many experimental coins were being tested and lost in the mix without documentation? Collectors soon dubbed these rarities the glass water Bombay hooks, a name referencing the mirror-like finish on the reverse field and the subtle appearance of the marsh's water. The term stuck, and over time, coin dealers began listing known examples with premiums far above regular 2015 quarters. Still, their scarcity kept them out of the mainstream market. Only 3 additional specimens with similar characteristics have been confirmed by graders in the years since, each with minor variations but all sharing that telltale hybrid finish and faint doubling. What makes these Bombay hook quarters particularly compelling is their quiet nature. Unlike coins with dramatic mint errors, off-centers, broad strikes, or clipped planchets, these anomalies whisper rather than shout. Their value lies in their subtlety, their unexpected beauty, and the questions they pose about what goes unseen during routine minting. Layla eventually sold her original coin at a private auction, using the funds to pay off a portion of her graduate student loans. The buyer remains anonymous, but the transaction was well documented, with photographs circulated among the numismatic community. Since then, the glass water error quarters have become legends in their own right, coins that were never supposed to exist, born from precision gone slightly off script. Today, these few known 2015 Bombay hook experimental strike quarters stand as quiet giants among modern mint errors. Their appearance, their composition, and their backstory elevate them far beyond their intended face value. Not only do they reveal the complexity of coin production, but they remind collectors that even in a tightly controlled system, small surprises slip through, waiting to be found by the right pair of eyes. As of the latest evaluations, these rare Bombay hook quarter errors command a market value ranging from $36,000 to $92,000, depending on condition and clarity of the distinguishing features. A gentle glint in a pocket full of change may just be the start of a story waiting to unfold.